Hello.
Hello. Welcome to Within the Quadrant. Second time of the day for us. So yeah, we get busy. But we do have a special guest tonight, and I am going to have Sis introduce him.
Well, we have Father Sean Wilde UE, author, based in New Orleans, with us tonight. He is a vampire, witch, priest, professional psychic, theurgist, sin eater, and occult teacher. He studied anthropology, philosophy, and religion and culture at university, has been drawn to the occult and metaphysical universe since the age of 4, beginning with a fascination for books on the paranormal and cryptids. Welcome, Sean. How are you?
I'm great. And thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
You're honored.
Yeah, it's a real pleasure, and I got so much to talk about, actually. But the first thing I would like to ask you is, I know we did kind of like a watered down introduction, and the whole description is on YouTube. I want you to tell us about yourself.
Yeah. In terms of occult background, things started when I was 4. I was in a very haunted home. And for those of you who are maybe over 35, or if you're in an older home, you might remember those roller blinds where, if you looked at them wrong, they would roll up. You didn't even have to touch them, they'd roll up. Well, in my home, they would roll down. So, there's a lot of activity in the home. And shortly after that, I learned how to read. Don't know if it was related to the ghost or not, because the ghost would interact with me almost nightly. But I learned how to read. And I just started reading about the paranormal at a 4-year-old level, of course, in a small town. I was reading about UFOs and ghosts and goblins and things like that. And I just found this world so fascinating. So it kind of grew from there. By the time I was 12, I did my first public speaking engagement. We had to do speeches for our last year of elementary school, and I did it on UFOs. I started public speaking 40 years ago now. It's been over 40 years, and it grew from there. So I started doing it in high school. Every time I had to do some sort of speaking engagement, I would do something on the occult or the paranormal. And by the time I was 20, that was my first initiation. So I've been an initiate now for 33 years this December. So this is 33 years for my first initiation. Yeah. So I'm quiet about some of my initiations. Some of them I'm very public about. So one of the ones I'm public about is the Aurum Solis, and that's a theurgic order. So that's if you know the Golden Dawn, think Golden Dawn, but with less ceremonial magic and a little bit nicer. And that's the Aurum Solis. That's the quick way of describing it. So that's one that I'm very public about. Of course, with my new book, Living Vampires, I'm public about being a member of the Kheprian Order. So I'm initiated into that, and it's a vampire order. And in that one, we believe in reincarnation and past lives. So depending on how you look at it, I've been a member of that for a very long time. And then I've been trained as a witch. I've been trained in a number of other systems. I'm also, the reason that I put Father in front of my name is that I'm actually ordained in the liberal Catholic Church. So I'm also a Catholic bishop. So I got a lot of stuff going on, a lot of different ways that I'm being pulled, and I try and kind of synchronize it as best I can.
I was going to say, that's a lot.
Yeah, that's the version.
And I try to synchronize my stuff, and there's days where I feel like I'm losing my ever-living mind.
Nick, do you have a question for him?
Yes. So my first question is, can you explain to us what a sin eater is? And then I have a follow-up question after that.
Yeah, absolutely. And hi, David Wells. I'll try and say hello to people as I see stuff come up. So that was one thing I didn't mention. I am the world's only, all these words are important: public, traditional, verified sin eater. So those 3 words in combination are important, because there's a lot of modern day sin eaters out there, and there's rumors of traditional sin eaters that are hanging out in small villages but aren't public at all. So public, verified, and traditional sin eater. So sin eating in written records goes back to just after the formation of the Anglican Church in England. It was in Wales, the Midlands, the Welsh Marches, basically, of England. And when somebody was dead or dying, the sin eater of the village would be called out, and they would go to the family home, and they would eat a ritual meal over the corpse, or over the person that was dying, usually a corpse. And through this ritual meal, they would consume the sins of the person. And the idea was making it so they could get into heaven, but also so that they wouldn't come back as a vampire or as a ghost. So ironically, although I'm also part of a vampire order, I help people not come back as vampires according to the mythology. So Sin eating does that. So they basically rest well. me, the one thing that I interpret from it is that we all have things that we believe are wrong. It might not be related to Catholic sin or sin. We have things that we believe are wrong. It separates us from the divine. The Sin Eater removes that blockage. The Sin Eater removes all that. It helps the person get to Valhalla, happy hunting grounds, reincarnate wherever they're supposed to go. So that's how I look at it, although I do the traditional ritual.
Wow.
I have a follow-up question.
No worries.
Typically, Sin Eaters are ostracized and incapable of removing those sins because they can't be forgiven for a sin that's not theirs or named.
Yeah.
Does that differ from what you're doing? And do you have a method that releases the sin?
So I love that because, first of all, you're diving right in, right? Like some interviews, we just kind of go on the surface, and you're already diving into something that's pretty important, specifically as sin eating. So thank you for that. So first, I should also verify that or clarify that Richard Munslow in Shropshire, England, was the last sin eater that was known around 1910 until I brought the magic back. So for the first time in 100 years, I brought it back in 2022, publicly again, at least, and potentially for the first time on this continent, although you have rumors of certain things going on in Appalachia. I'm Canadian. I apologize. I'm going to butcher that pronunciation.
Appalachia.
Thank you. So just to remark on that. So in the legends of the Sin Eaters, you had two versions. You had people who would throw up the sins afterwards, in other words, literally throwing up, vomiting out the food. And the other one was that they would throw the sins into the river. Both of these are problematic, and I'm going to explain why. First, most Sin Eaters, like virtually all, except for Munslow and myself, were basically destitute, ostracized, as you said, Nico, and that sort of thing. And so they were poor, they were starving. You're not throwing up a meal if you're poor and starving.
Right.
So why would you throw it up to get rid of the sins? That makes no sense.
Right.
Then the other issue is the throwing the sins into the river. That actually requires magical skill. That actually requires magical aptitude. It's not just immersing yourself in the river. It was throwing them into the river, right? So this isn't just some sort of cleansing or grounding. This is actually some sort of skill. And so both are problematic. The first one, like I said, because poor people, starving people aren't going to throw up a meal. The second one, because the ritual is actually called mechanical magic. And mechanical magic means that once you start it and you know how to do it, it just operates itself. It requires no skill. I can teach anybody how to be a Sin Eater in an hour, and they can do the ritual successfully. It requires no skill. There's nothing of me in the ritual. I'm not channeling anything. I'm not communing with the deity. I'm not putting my energy into it, other than my physical energy, of course, because I'm eating and doing the things. But there's nothing magical about me in the ritual at all. It's mechanical. And so if you require no skill to do the ritual, how are you throwing the sins into the river, which requires a lot of skill? Having said that, two more caveats. I'm in the Kheprian tradition. We're kind of trained to take a magical beating, if you will, and I belong to a subset in that tradition where we're really trained to take a magical beating. It's part of our training, and so I can take a lot, magically speaking, and anything related to it. Doesn't mean I'm a tough guy. I've just been trained for it. And the first time I did the sitting ritual, I almost threw up. The ritual is brutal. Brutal. So I think untrained Sin Eaters were throwing up. And so people were like, oh, that's how they're getting rid of the sins. Look at them throwing up. So I think that's where that comes from, is what I think. Speculation, but I mean, sometimes you got to speculate, right? My other speculation is that sin eating is actually the remnant of a Western mystery tradition from Egypt. I have no proof of this. My hour-long talk talks about like what we know, what we can suspect, what we can think. And that's one of the things that is suspected, but we just can't prove it. If that's the case, there might have actually been two versions of sin eating. There was the non-initiatory version, where they were throwing up because they weren't trained properly. And there was the initiatory version, where they were actually trained how to deal with the sins and throw them into the river afterwards. So that's what I think, but I don't know for sure. In my case, because I'm also a liberal Catholic bishop, I have the good fortune of knowing other liberal Catholic bishops. And so you can go to confession. And one of the things you can do in confession is you can confess the sins that you don't remember. You can't do that. So you're like, I did this and I did this, and also ask for forgiveness of anything else that I don't remember. Well, when you eat these sins, you don't know any of them. You don't remember them. So that's what you're confessing. So I kind of get a hell free card or get a jail free card.
Yeah, you found a loophole.
That's how I get rid of all of them. Now, with my training and the amount of training that I have, I also dump the sins in a liminal space. So I'll go into some sort of liminal space, a threshold of some sort, and I'll dump them there. And I get rid of between like ballparking at 80 and 90% of the sins by doing that, but the rest is confession.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot for
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was
But
hung up
so
on
really
some things.
interesting.
Because
I
I've
did.
studied the Memoir of the Last Senator and like a couple of the texts. I'm an Ozark folk practitioner, so the Appalachian Senating's pretty familiar to me, but it's finding somebody that actually has a like active and living practice of it is super intriguing.
Yeah, it took me over 20 years to basically discover the different parts of the ritual. And I just every so often, on and off, I would study and look for stuff. And then the year my mother died actually was the year where I'm like, I think I'm finally going to get it. And that's where I got the breakthrough. I found the 2 secret charms for the sinating ritual, and I had a breakthrough in some of the other things that needed to happen. And then I was able to reconstruct the ritual based on all the different accounts that I could find and put all the accounts together and be like, this is what the ritual is. And then here's the things we're not sure. So it's a reconstruction or what we think may have happened.
Yep.
But there was enough that like I can do the ritual and the ritual.
Enough to be workable. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's a couple of things like we don't know if they had a cloth on the chest or not. Ultimately, that doesn't really matter other than being super traditional, things like that. But all the components that you needed for the mechanical magic to work, I was able to find.
Wow. It is super intriguing.
We, Sean, you and I and my family has something in common with you. We took the Laurie Cabot classes, tradition, and I know that you did too.
Yeah.
She's an amazing woman and everything. Did you get your training online or did you go personal to her?
I got it online, and actually, I recognize Icarus Witch. Just wanted to do a shout out to Icarus Witch. I was I apologize to them. I don't remember if it's Witchcraft 1 and 2 with them or both, but so I know them. So that was really cool.
I think Jason was in 2. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. I meant Jason specifically. So I got trained by Laurie Cabot online though. So it was Laurie and Paul, and I'm awful. I forget who the other third degree was, but it was Laurie, Paul, and somebody else. So I got trained.
It could be Jackie or Mimi or
Rubbery.
Sure. You could, there's many. Believe me.
Anyway. I got trained by Laurie, Witchcraft 1 and 2 online. Yeah.
Awesome. So I guess we can call each other brother and sister here, right?
Yeah, exactly, brother. Yeah, in the tradition, absolutely.
Yes, in the tradition. Sis, back to you.
What tradition do you follow? I guess going off of that.
Well, again, so I keep a lot. So I'm initiated into double-digit traditions, and my degrees are a lot. And some people are like, oh, you're tradition collecting, you're degree collecting, and I truly don't look at it that way. As a Kheprian, which is what I consider myself first and foremost, we're encouraged to explore other technology and kind of bring it back to the hive, if you will. You're kind of like a bee, collects honey. So whatever we're allowed to share, within traditions that we go into, we do. Obviously, you can't share everything, but to gain that knowledge as well for future lifetimes. So the main tradition would be the Kheprian one. I would say secondarily, kind of branching out to both, would be the theurgy through the Aurum Solis, and then also the Catholic one. The sitting tradition is always there, but it's very isolated. I don't really incorporate anything else because it's its own thing. And then with my witchcraft, because in Cabot witchcraft, Cabot witches believe in the law of threefold. I personally don't, but I do believe that if you attach yourself to an egregore that you're affected by it. And so for Cabot witchcraft and for my witchcraft, strictly speaking, I only do healing. So when I'm doing a witchcraft tradition, all I do is healing. And that's because I'm attaching myself to the Cabot egregore that does believe in the threefold laws. I don't want anything coming back that's negative on me within that egregore. So that's kind of what I do. I blend them together, but not in the sense of an eclectic, and only where it makes sense. So my Catholic practice tends to stand mostly on its own, but not fully. The sin eating does, the witchcraft does, and everything else kind of gets blended together, I would say. Yeah. And then there are traditions that I keep secret. And I do that for a number of reasons. One is sometimes it's kind of cool to be ooky spooky a little bit, right? A little mysterious. The other tradition, or the other reason too, is that if people don't know what tradition you're in, sometimes when they're negative people, they don't know what technology you know. So they don't know how you can protect yourself.
Don't wear full cards out.
So it's a question mark, right? And then the other one is that they don't know who you know. And so then sometimes people will talk and they talk to people and that you're in a brother or sister tradition with where they don't know, right? And so, so Chrissy just showed us now. So now they know they can't talk to Chrissy because we're in the same tradition together. But, it's other people that sometimes people will talk to, good and bad, right? Like I'll hear bad things about me and I'll hear about me. And they don't know they're talking to a brother or sister in my tradition, in one of the traditions. So that's why I keep it secret for that reason too. And in some cases, I'm actually obligated to. For some of the traditions, can't talk about it at all, right? Other than saying there's a tradition.
Oh yeah, ethics, code of ethics. Yes,
ethics. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So I guess in short, that's why I say all these different things, right? Why I'm a priest, a theurgist, sin eater, vampire, witch. It's because of these different traditions and the names that we would identify ourselves as within those traditions.
I understand that. So, Nick, you have one?
Let's see. So you have a new book coming out, which is Living Vampires, which I believe comes out next week.
Yeah, I got my author copies. This
Tell
is
us
the
about that.
copy.
Ooh.
But I got my author copies just a couple of days ago, so I'm anxiously waiting them in my Sassy Magic stores. So I can hardly wait. Yeah, so officially it's supposed to be August 8th. We had 6 copies at Mystic South, which is a conference in Atlanta that just happened just over a week ago. So they sold out right after my talk. They didn't talk on vampirism. They were gone, within 15.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, I know it was only 6, but it's still a nice feeling, right?
Yeah, exactly. Even if it was 1, it's still cool.
It's so cool, exactly. Yeah, so Nick, officially August 8th, but basically whenever the books come into the stores now is when the book is here, which will be before August 8th. I'm looking at the calendar on my other screen here. Yeah. So Living Vampires is my second book. In Living Vampires, it's actually disclosed. I've got 2 more books coming, one on spiritual warfare, one on home protection. And I just found out that I do have, literally yesterday, I just found out that I do have somebody that wants to republish Magic Without Tools. So Magic Without Tools will be coming back as a revised edition in about a year or so.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We have a question from one of our friends, David. There we go.
Yeah, David. So for me, they're not at all. I do have like a Norse ancestry, and but I'm not connected to it really at all. I don't find a huge connection with it. Runes are great. I think they're powerful. I think they're valid and wonderful, but I actually don't use them at all. I do use some other symbols I can't really talk about because of the tradition that it's in, but they're not runes. But the idea of a symbol that represents certain magical things and power, absolutely, but runes specifically, no, I don't. And so I'm also largely ignorant of them overall compared to a lot of other magical things.
Wow. You spoke of your book, Magic Without Tools.
Yes.
And here, there.
Look at the little bookmarks. I love it.
I do because, foremost, we always teach our students that you don't need tools, that you are the magic, you are the energy and stuff. And the reason I got the bookmarks because I love how you got like the energy meridians, that a lot of people don't know about sometimes,
Yeah.
And then how you got the reconation process and everything. I mean, this is absolutely one of the best books I have seen about Magic Without Tools and everything.
Thank you so much.
And I just want to kind of plug it in. There you go. So
thank you.
It's a good book. And I tried to pre-order your Living Vampires and Amazon wouldn't let me. So
I wonder if it's because it's within that weird gray area now where technically pre-orders are over and it's available, but not available officially, even though it is available.
Yeah.
So any day you should be able to.
Yeah, I will. I'll be probably the first ones in line to
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Back to you, sis.
So let's see here. We just talked to Lilith Dorsey a few hours before this podcast. We asked her about the vampires in New Orleans. And so I'd like to ask you the same question on the vampires there.
Sure.
So does New Orleans have vampires?
Well, I mean, you're talking to one, so of course. I mean, I think first of all, we should also define vampires, right? Because so my definition of vampire. So there's kind of three groups of people or beings that people think of when they think of vampires, if they know anything actually about them, as opposed to these physical immortal beings, right, that are legendary and mythological. And I would separate them as to people that practice vampirism, vampiric people, and then actual vampires that are a state of being. Right. So vampiric people are sometimes positive people. They're just experienced practitioners that know how to siphon energy, and they're siphoning energy to fuel their workings. Sometimes they're that person that's always emotionally draining you. Sometimes it's a narcissist, that sort of thing. They're just draining you. They're vampiric. A baby is vampiric. Somebody who's very ill is vampiric. So that's what that is. Somebody who practices vampirism uses vampirism in their day-to-day life to gain magic, gain power, usually for the purpose of avoiding what's called the second death. And the second death is where when you die, you forget all your past lives, you come back, you don't remember anything, or sometimes you're not an individual soul yet, depending on the interpretation. So they're trying to avoid that. And then vampires as a state of being are either born that way or are initiated into a vampire system like the Kheprian Order, and there's a few other orders that can do it as well, and turned into vampires. So it actually is possible to turn somebody into one. I'm not going to be popular in the community for saying that, because a lot of people in the community think that's not true. They're wrong. But for vampirism as a state of being, we have the permanent fundamental need to exchange vital energy. So without exchanging vital energy, because we don't produce it the same way that a normal person does, without that exchange, we can get really, really sick. And so that's the difference, is that we have this permanent need. So, babies have this need to exchange energy because they're babies, right? But then they grow out of it, they get older. We don't grow out of it as vampires. If it's a state of being for us, it's always there. So having defined that, whether people agree with me or not, using that definition, of course, we have vampiric people here. There's vampiric people everywhere, all over the world. We do have vampire practitioners here. Not many, but we do have some. But we do have a lot of vampires here as a state of being. So, one of the most famous sanguinarian or blood-drinking vampires, which I am not a blood-drinking vampire, is Balthazar. He's a very famous one nationally. He's here in Orleans. He's been here for a very long time, works in the French Quarter. There's a number of vampire groups here. I can't name them because I don't, in some cases I know they want to be secret, in some cases I don't know. But there are a number of vampire groups here. So there's officially four that are willing to be recognized, at least even just by saying that there's four. Right. I'm aware of. So, often called houses, as opposed to a coven called a house of vampires. Yes, there's a lot here. And then the Kheprian Order, I'm the founder of the New Orleans Temple for the Kheprian Order. So it's a chartered temple for the Kheprian Order. So we have a Kheprian temple here in town as well, in New Orleans.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you very much. That's really cool. I have another follow-up question that I just want to say too. So I'm a medium, obviously. I like to say it from the Sixth Sense movie. I see dead people and talk to dead people. I'm also an elemental fire witch, a very, very novice and very fresh baby witch. That needs to learn more. But I'm also was raised Catholic, and I was told that my gift was demonic when I was a child, and that I needed to squash that gift, and that should not be even something that's even remotely talked about. So I'm really curious, in reading your bio and in all the things that you do, how that Catholicism, how does that blend in, and how are you accepted in that with the Catholic, religion part,
Yeah. So, in Roman Catholicism, I'm not accepted at all, of course. I was
going to say,
So there's a liberal Catholic Church, and there's liberal Catholicism, like an umbrella term, and I'm using the umbrella term. So in liberal Catholicism, you can have I'm going to use right and left wing, but I don't necessarily mean conservative and not conservative.
Right.
But it can also be that. So in liberal Catholicism, you can have the extreme right, where basically you can't tell the difference between a liberal Catholic Church and a Roman Catholic Church. Okay, like in terms of traditional. Okay, you can have the extreme left, where it's somebody running naked in the woods. Like that sort of thing, right? So I'm basically right of center when it comes to my Catholicism. I'm more traditional. I do a mass, but I do a Marian mass. So that sort of thing. So you're going to be able to tell that it's different because I don't have like a beautiful church or anything like that. But for somebody who doesn't know much at all, if I was standing in the church doing it, they probably wouldn't know unless they actually knew something about Catholicism, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah,
and again, I got no problems with ones that are further to the right and ones that are further to the left when it comes to liberal Catholicism. Again, we're not talking politics. I want to be really clarifying here, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to Catholicism, it's that's kind of just the best way to describe that. So that's one thing about being accepted versus not. So in the Roman Catholic Church, not accepted at all. By other Catholics, it really depends on where they fall on that spectrum as well, right? In terms of small c Catholics. When I first came to Roman Catholicism, because I was a Roman Catholic for a while, I spent 3.5 years where all I did was Roman Catholicism. But I also did the spiritual parts. So I was part of the charismatic movement, which is like energy work for Catholics.
Right.
I was involved with Opus Dei. So my spiritual advisor was actually somebody who was directly ordained by Saint John Paul II. So it was kind of, 2 steps away from the Pope in terms of who was advising me. So I was pretty intensely involved in the spiritual parts of the Catholic Church. And during that 3.5 years is how I was still able to reconcile pretty much all of my occult practices too, based on actual teachings, not just what you hear in the church, but actual Catholic catechism. So for me, it wasn't really a problem. They almost didn't baptize me because they said you can't believe in reincarnation, and then we compromised. So that's a whole other thing, right? But I was able to reconcile that as well and reconcile that for them. Yeah. So in terms of that, like that's kind of how I did it. In terms of beliefs, I believe that there's a source that we all come from, and that source is not God or Yahweh. It's something well beyond God or Yahweh. And kind of like Kabbalah, there's these emanations from that source. And these emanations, some of them are gods and goddesses and deities, and some of them are other things that are not good. Some of them are things that are very good, and some of them are everything in between. And so I see Yahweh as one of those emanations. I absolutely believe Yahweh is a god. I believe there's a lot of other gods and goddesses. I think Inanna is a goddess, as an example. Where I differ, I think, from a lot of pagans and witches is I perceive Yahweh as the God of this world. And the reason I do that is I think he's done a really amazing propaganda campaign. I think he's taken over. I think he's kind of done a coup d'etat, if you will, right? And when we see the billions of followers, there's something to that. So that's kind of how I see it, is that Yahweh not isn't the creator of this world, but Yahweh is the God of this world because of his propaganda campaign. And that's how I look at it. It doesn't mean we shouldn't be worshiping other gods and goddesses. I venerate various deities. And in my Catholicism, I have no problem with people that do that. But I kind of tip the hat to Yahweh because he's like the guy in charge. Is how I look at it. If that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Agree completely. Yeah. Perfectly said, succinctly said, and explained. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Back to you, Chrissy.
What events are you that's coming up for you?
Yeah, so in terms of what I run 2 events. I run SassyCon, which is it's basically an extension of Sassy Magic and our branding. So we own 3 occult shops in New Orleans called Sassy Magic Noir, and Sassy Magic Boutique. And we started a conference called myself and my business partner called SassyCon, and that's every Mother's Day weekend. So that's coming up in May of 2027, and it attracts some pretty big talent. This year we had Christopher Penzak, Eva Dominguez Jr., Matthew Venus. Next year we've got Matt Oren. Devin Hunter, Storm Fairy Wolf, Matthew's coming back, Evil's coming back, Jamie Wagner was there and is coming back. So it attracts some pretty big talent. But we're a small conference. We're just under 100 people, but kind of like it that way. So that's coming up. But then more closely coming up that I run is called Nocturne. So it's gonna be the first conference that I've done for this, and it's a Living Vampire Conference. So it's a 3-day conference over Halloween weekend here in New Orleans. And it's designed to give people a crash course on vampirism and energy work. So if you're a vampire, it's going to make you a better vampire, more ethical too. If you want to be more ethical, if you're not a vampire, it's going to teach you how to protect against them, and how to do cool energy work, and maybe remember past lives. And if you want to be a vampire, it's going to teach you a little bit about that and what that looks like and what a life as a vampire looks like. Yeah, so that's Nocturne, and that starts on the Friday before Halloween. And that is on Facebook. I don't have a website for that, but that's on Facebook, a book called Nocturne. Nocturne. So that's coming up. And then in terms of things that I'm involved in, this year I'm going to Temple Fest, which is in, I'm going to butcher the name, but it's in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
So I'm actually doing a city eating ritual there for the first time this year publicly. I haven't done it publicly now for almost a year. So I'm going to be doing the sin eating ritual there. I'm going to be talking about links and how links work and why cutting cords is unethical. I'm going to be talking about that oftentimes. And then I'm also involved in, oh my goodness, I know their group name, and now I'm trying to remember the name of the event. I'm so sorry. Dark Gift Alliance. It's a vampire ball here in New Orleans on the Thursday night before Halloween, and it's run by Listel, who works at a shop called Voodoo Authentica. I'm so sorry, Listel, but I'm sure you know your shop. And she runs it with some other friends every year by vampires for vampires. So it's run by vampires or boners, and I'm going to be vending there. So
how cool.
Yes, I'm vending, and then the very next day is Nocturne, which is kind of cool. So that's in terms of events. That's this year. I actually just posted on Facebook a bunch of cities that I'm going to be in. So I'm doing some tours and doing some talks at shops.
I just saw that. Yes.
Yeah, and so there's a whole list on my Facebook page about where I'm going. I'm going to be hearing petitions if people are interested in being a member of the Kheprian Order. I'm going to be doing readings for people. I'm going to be doing book signings and teaching classes. I've got some ancestor work I got to do and some other work that I'll be publishing later. I'm so excited to publish them later. I can't talk about them though until but yes, I'm going to be doing all that between now and the end of 2026. And then in December, I'll be posting what's going on in 2027. But if we're looking that far ahead, unofficially, but I think I can say it, I'm going to be at Spirit Northwest, which is in Portland, Oregon, talking. And I'm going to be at Convocation, which is in Detroit, Michigan, talking. And I don't know, definitely not a guarantee, but I hope, of course, that Mystic South will have me back in July of next year as well. And Temple Fest is my first year, so we'll see how it goes. If they like me and I like them, I'm sure I will like them. Hopefully they like me too, and we'll see. But those are the three that I would be hoping to go to next year for sure.
Yeah, it's a great event. I know Christopher's very proud of his event there. We're going to be in Salem in next month, so I know because Christopher was asking me. He goes, "Well, if you can be close by." He was doing something the first weekend in September, and I told him no. We got pretty much filled up from what we're going to do. You know, getting a tattoo, getting a reading, and everything. Now, you have not lived in New Orleans for a long time, have you? I mean, didn't you just move there not too long ago?
5 years, yeah. Yeah, started visiting in 2016, moved in 2021, yeah.
And what made you move to New Orleans?
So so the reason I came down, it was always on my bucket list to go. A friend of mine could come down in the heyday of the goth bars and the vampire scene down here. And so it was on my bucket list to go. But I was actually really afraid of voodoo. And I didn't like being afraid of another system of magic or belief system. I wanted to know more about it because, you know, as Kheprians, we try and confront our fears. And so when I saw some stuff going on down here, I thought, oh, I'll go down to New Orleans and see what it's like. And so was able to confront that fear, learned a lot of stuff, and had a healthy respect for voodoo, not afraid of it anymore, but healthy respect for anybody that practices it. And, you know, it's a valid and powerful, you know, technology, in my opinion. So I was able to get overcome that. But I just, at the same time, which wasn't expected, I fell in love with the city. I fell in love with the people and the culture and the music and just the energetics of it, the scene, just everything about it. And I started coming here more and more to the point where I was spending almost 8 weeks, 9 weeks a year here. So then started doing the math about, you know, is it cheaper to just rent year round versus, you know, Airbnb and hotels and things like that?
Yeah, right.
And, so I ended up getting a place down here. And for the first year, I actually snowbirded. So for 6 months, I was working remotely for my Canadian stuff, and then went back to Canada for 6 months. And now I travel back and forth. I'm, you know, going back to Canada shortly, actually, for a while, mainly to go to my occult library back in Canada. But yeah, that's what it was. There's just something about it. And then when I stayed here for the longest period of time, which I think would have been in 2023 for the first time, that's when I noticed my magic shift. And so, and I've talked to a lot of other practitioners about this. If you spend between 10 and 20 consecutive days here, it has to be consecutive, your abilities amplify. Doesn't matter what you are. Doesn't matter what your practice is. Doesn't matter if you're brand new. Doesn't matter if you've been doing stuff for 50 years. Doesn't matter if you're a good person or a bad person. Your abilities get amplified here. And although it carries with you to some extent once you've been here long enough, there are things that I can only do in New Orleans. I can't do anywhere else so far in the world. That's just how powerful it is here. Yes, that's another reason too, that if you're a practitioner, if you can make a go of it in New Orleans, your magic will skyrocket. First, we just have so many qualified practitioners per capita in the city as well. Every city has their dabblers and new people and serious people. We have way more serious people in this city than average. And then it also amplifies your abilities. So not only do you have really cool conversations all the time, but you also get your abilities amplified. So that was the other thing too. I discovered that in 2023. No, not 2023. I'm sorry, 2018. Sorry, I get my dates mixed up. 2018, I discovered that. And that's when I was like, okay, I want to move down. I was thinking 2 years after first coming, but it was first visiting, not first moving here. 2000.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have to go. I've never been there. I want to go there really, really bad. It's on my bucket list.
So good.
Yeah.
You should do it.
Now my husband's probably thinking, oh God, we're going to go down there for about 10 days and she's going to stay down there.
Yeah. Well, that happens, right? If the city wants you here, the city will pull you in, right? Halloween is wonderful here. And of course, SassyCon's a really cool time too, of course. But Halloween is a really wonderful time. For weather, late January, early February is going to be the best for how cool it is. But for atmosphere, Halloween or SassyCon are the two best times, in my opinion.
Right.
For a spiritual person, right? I mean, the party atmosphere, Mardi Gras. If you want to come down and party,
right.
Mardi Gras and stuff like that.
Right.
But for anybody esoteric focused, SassyCon or Halloween for sure.
Now, with that being said, since you mentioned that, okay, now I've been in Salem probably 3 times on haunted happenings. Okay. Now, have you ever been to Salem during the haunted happenings?
No, I've been to Salem.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, I've been to
But
Salem.
you haven't been during the Halloween time.
No, that might change because as I just posted on my Facebook page, we are starting to look at space in Salem for another Sassy Magic shop, so that might change. If we find the appropriate space, I will be in Salem over October, but I'll be there as a business owner, as opposed to a tourist, right? As opposed to somebody just hanging out. Yeah.
So I was going to ask you, what's more crazy, Salem or New Orleans at that time? But since you haven't been to Salem around that time, I really cannot ask you that. So
from everything that I've heard, Salem's definitely way more crazy. Like it's getting to the point where it's just not fun. Because it's just so many people packed together. It sounds like to me what it's like here in Mardi Gras.
Yeah.
Like, and not the number of people, but how many people are packed together. Right. So Salem's pretty small. I don't know how many it takes before they're packed together, but whatever that is, that's what it seems to be like in October. And that's what it's like here in Mardi Gras. Or there's certain festivals, like on the weekend, if you walk down Bourbon Street, it's just everybody packed together. And that's what it sounds like. Like Essex Street in Salem sounds like Bourbon Street on a Saturday night when we've got a festival here. And I don't want to be on Bourbon Street either on a Saturday night when we've got a festival here. It's just too packed. Right. So I mean, definitely if people want something a little bit calmer in terms of sheer number of people, like in terms of the crowdedness of it, definitely New Orleans is a better choice. I mean, Salem is a classic choice for sure every October. I've heard that season's starting to go back to early September and even mid-November now. So there's always the option to go before Halloween, right? I was there in September, and September was busy enough for me. Like it wasn't crowded, but it was busy. Like there were people everywhere, and I liked that. That was fine for me. It felt like a Saturday in a thriving downtown. That's what it felt like. Yeah.
From September to probably the second week in September to probably the first weekend in November. It's. I mean, you get hundreds to 200,000, even more people. So, it gets crazy. That's why I don't like going back during that time. So
right.
Too much.
That's too crazy.
Kind of like the Mardi Gras, like you said with Mardi Gras. I was going to use the same analogy with that. I'm like, I'm not really interested in Mardi Gras.
No, like I go for one night. I go because I do for one night. I enjoy it. You get into the spirit of it. You shout for throws and you drink entirely too much and you party. And one night is fun, but I don't need more than one night. And the driving here is driving during Mardi Gras is awful. I mean, as a tourist, somebody has to worry about that, right? But as somebody who lives here, it's we call it the box. You can literally get stuck inside or outside the box where you can't get because everything gets blocked off, right? So So if you miss-time it, you can't get home or you can't get out of home.
I'd have PTSD on that one for sure.
Nico, you have another question?
Ooh. So I'd seen, I believe you had co-founded the Salem Witchcraft and Folklore Festival. Is that correct?
No. That is not me. No.
Ooh.
Isn't that Matthew Venus? Isn't that Matthew Venus? Is
That's
that
what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I have nothing to do with that. I think it's a great festival. I'm only being emphatic because I don't want to take any sort of credit for something I've never done. But Matthew Venus's festival is extremely well curated from everything I've heard. I mean, he wrote the foreword to my book. I adore Matthew. I respect him as a person and as a practitioner. And I definitely encourage people to go to that. But no, I am not involved in that in any way, shape, or form. So, yeah.
Wow. Have you? Okay, now I know you say you're a vampire. Okay, and I have to ask. Okay, we had a guest probably a month and a half ago, Matthew Burr, who wrote the book about Dracula, and he's in Transylvania Society of Dracula from Romania and got knighthooded and everything over there. I was just wondering if you know about that Transylvania Society of Dracula or anything like that?
That sounds familiar, and his name sounds familiar, but I don't really have any specific knowledge. I mean, I talked about Dracula in my book, but it's from a very different perspective.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not dialed into that. Like I know Dr. Stoker hangs out in New Orleans a lot. He's friends with a local business owner here, and he's actually doing a whole vampire tour next year in Romania, which I'm looking at.
I know. I know. I saw that on his Facebook. I'm just like, I want to go. So,
I know.
and there's a lot of stuff about Dracula. So it's my belief. Dracula was. This is absolute historical fact. Dracula and his father, Vlad, were both members of the Order of the Dragon.
Yeah.
The Order of the Dragon was a chivalric order publicly designed to stop the Ottomans. And, that's what it was, and to protect Sigismund. Well, Sigismund and Barbara, his wife, both of them are ancestors of mine, as is Dracula and his dad. They're also ancestors of mine. We tie in because of an ancestor of his. So they're all ancestors of mine. What I believe and what we don't have is historical fact is that the Order of the Dragon, this is believed by a number of European dragon groups, European vampire groups, I should say as well. But the Order of the Dragon was also a vampire group. It was a vampire practitioner group. So not a state of being, not where you could be turned into a vampire, but you could practice that to avoid the second death. And so there's a number of us across the world, mainly in Europe and Turtle Island or North America, that believe this. And so in my belief, Dracula, oh my gosh, Dracula, that's kind of funny, that's a new one. Dracula actually is or was a vampire, but not in the blood-sucking immortal way, in the vampire practitioner way. So that's how I look at Dracula or Vlad, is that he was absolutely a vampire, but just not how we see him in the stories.
Wow.
Yeah, and I talk about that in Living Vampires as well. I talk about that. I talk about some other kind of mythological vampires and whether or not they existed or not as practitioners. A couple more of my ancestors that were vampires, and I talk about that. So yeah, there's a little bit of ancestor stuff mixed in with Living Vampires as well.
Wow. That's cool.
Well, I know your book goes on sale, I think August 8th. So
At the latest, yep.
Yep. So that's next Thursday. So I will tell everybody, hey, go out there and get that book because
Thank you.
I'm excited about it. And I know it's on my list. So it's like I said, as soon as the 8th come, I'll be there. Click.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, because it's okay, I'm a vampire lover. Okay, so anything with vampires, I'm there. I'm reading the book or watching the movie or whatever, whether it's Hollywood version or whatever. It's just exciting, So, now, do you have any other books that you are working on now? Because I know you mentioned something about you had some that you're thinking about. Are you actually working on something right now?
Yeah, so I actually handed in a book on spiritual warfare to Llewellyn just last week. So that got contracted out. I kept it secret. The only reason I'm mentioning it is that it says forthcoming books in Living Vampires. Otherwise, I wouldn't even say anything until I had a cover for it. So spiritual warfare is coming out sometime around this time next year, likely. We're figuring out how to time that with a revised edition of Magical Tools, which will be around the same time. So one might be August, one might be October, but we don't know which one. So we have a revised edition of Magical Tools. So some stuff is going to be removed, new stuff is going to be added. There's going to be some rewritings that go on in there. but definitely making it something new as well for people in case they've already got the original one. And then spiritual warfare, there isn't really a book on it yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was sorely needed, in my opinion, because spiritual warfare can also be activist stuff too, right? And there are some activist books, but not spiritual warfare books, other than from a very Catholic perspective, of course. And this is not a Catholic perspective.
Wow.
So that's coming out. Those are both coming out next year. And then I don't know, because, and totally rightly and fully support them in this, Llewellyn doesn't want me having all kinds of books coming out at the same time, because then it's like, well, okay, I'm kind of tired of Sean Wilde. You know? So the home protection book, I don't know when it's coming out, but that'll be coming out after that. And then I do have an Oracle deck that will be coming out, and I don't know the timing for that yet. And I can't say anything else other than that, but I have an Oracle deck coming out. And then I am still waiting to hear back on 2 other pitches for books. And so depending on what they say about that, one I will be co-authoring. And so with that one, if we get it, it will come out around June of next year-ish. I can't say more than that until I have a contract. And then the other one, again, I can't say anything until at least I have a contract. And again, it won't be coming out till at least 2028 anyways. So yeah, a lot going on. I definitely have a lot going on. So spiritual warfare, magical tools, and home protection are the next ones people can look forward to in terms of what's coming out.
Wow, that is awesome. I keep looking at your page to remind me.
So, Sean, do you offer online classes by chance as well?
You know what? I was doing it for a little bit. I didn't get a lot of traction, and I think it's mainly because I wasn't advertising them well. I'm bad at marketing. If you get me in front of a classroom, I'm really good at it. But man, marketing, I struggle with
downfall too.
But I've been getting requests for it, and I think once I kind of do this touring around for 2026, and when I see what interest is generated, I might do a couple of classes for 2026 when I'm not touring around, and see how they go, and then go from there. I do teach stuff online for the Kheprian Order, but that's basically either for existing initiates or for people that are working towards initiation. We know train people now for a year before they get initiated. So they go through a year of training. Yeah, so I do that. But in terms of public, not anything yet, but it's likely coming. So if people check in on my page or check in on Living Vampires, singular for the website, Living Vampires, plural for the book, but if they check on livingvampire.com, there'll be announcements there if and when that happens, for sure.
Awesome. Great. So is there anything that we have not touched base on that you would like to share?
Oh my goodness. I think that was pretty good overall. I mean, thank you again for having me. So one thing I will say about Living Vampires is almost everybody watching this has a preconceived notion of what vampires are. And you're either like, I don't know about this guy, or I love it. And either way, you've got this preconceived notion. And I assure you, I almost guarantee your preconceived notion is wrong. I almost guarantee it. Even if you think of me favorably, it's still probably your preconceived notion is wrong as a vampire. So I really encourage people to read it, because this isn't just a book for vampires. Yes, it absolutely is. It's to help awaken Kheprians. It's help awaken people to vampirism. It's for vampires to become better vampires, for sure. But it's also a book on energy work, and to help people become better energetic practitioners in general, regardless of what your path is. It's really complementary to that. And I also train people in how to protect yourselves from vampires, because there's a lot of unethical vampires out there. And so I train people how to be stronger and how to realistically and properly protect themselves. So if you're like, man, I don't like vampires, I'm always being eaten by them, or whatever, then you need the book, because the book's going to train you how to fight back and punch back, as you should if it's not consensual, right? So I really encourage people to look at that. I did a vampire ritual at Mystic South, and they weren't too sure, I think, about having me in to do a vampire ritual, but certain people went to bat for me, so they let me do it. And people, everyone, with one exception, because one person I don't think liked it, everybody said this was not what I expected from a vampire ritual. And they were just blown away. There were tears, people had worked through trauma, like people's had some spontaneous awakenings. The point is that for a lot of people, this vampire ritual, people think ooky, spooky, dark, negative, it was really healing for them. And it's often understated that vampires are also protectors and healers. And we don't talk about that enough. So I guess that's what I would say that we didn't really cover is that, yes, we consume energy. Yes, we can be ooky spooky, and I like it. Don't get me wrong. I dress in my gothy clothes too, and I, wander the streets of New Orleans, right? But we're also here as protectors, and the book will tell you about that. It'll teach you about that, and I think it's important, whether you're a vampire or not.
Damn, I want that book now.
I know.
Trick your nose and just kind of, send it to me.
Right?
Yeah, do it, Jenny. Yeah.
I agree with you. Now I'm showing my age.
One more question that I do have for you, because I know in your bio that you sent you into the paranormal and the cryptids as well. So are you still doing any kind of investigation, especially in New Orleans? I mean, I'm sure there's tons there.
Yeah, so I don't. I used to, like way back in the day. I've done paranormal investigations. I'm still open to it. I've got a number of friends that run paranormal investigations down here. They know that I'm literally a phone call away. I had one reach out to me when he picked up something, and he had like a hitchhiker literally on his body, like that sort of thing.
Oh, wow.
So I'm definitely available if anybody wants to engage me in investigations. I'm very willing. But typically now when I do investigations, it's much more about keeping the people safe or removing critters that have attached themselves to people more than anything, or dealing just with the really weird stuff that comes out, not just with the average ghost, which I'm happy to deal with, but you don't need a vampire for that, typically speaking. And then for the cryptids, I've just always found it fascinating. I think that kind of morphed into dealing with other kin and trans species and vampires, and that's kind of what I focus on now. Yeah. So I focus more on humans with a non-human soul, and that sort of cryptid, which isn't really a cryptid, but that's kind of what I focus on. If anybody ever wants to show me one or take me out on a hunt for one, I'm game for it. But yeah, no, it's not my main area at all. Yeah. Our most famous cryptid down here is the Rougarou, which is wolf, right? So yeah, the bayou and the swamps down here, like they're no joke, man. I don't want to be going out there at night, and it's not about the magical things. It's all about the physical out there.
The swamp puppies.
Yeah, just not interested at all.
My husband always says, because we do talk to some cryptids, hunters and stuff. He always says, "What are they going to do when they catch one, or if they do catch one?" That's interesting thought. What would you do if you actually caught like a dogman or a Bigfoot or something? I mean,
any footage is going to be considered AI, right? Any footage will be considered AI at this point, right? And I personally would never capture something like that because I would consider that to be very unethical, right? We're talking about another living being, probably an intelligent living being capable of complex thought, right? So, for me, I just could never ethically get behind that, right? If I was going on a hunt for one to try and like catalog evidence, that'd be one thing. But if somebody was like, "Hey, I got my net,"
I'm gonna bag it,
first of all, that might just end badly for that person, but also just not ethical in my opinion. Yes, I wouldn't take part in that. But I hear you. Like, I think what would happen is it'd just be blamed on AI. So let's say one came out of the woods, they're like, "Hey guys, do AI with, or not do a video of me." Everybody's gonna think it's AI.
Right.
My kids always tease me. They say, "Mom, if you see a Bigfoot, you make friends with him or her. You will set them down, probably put makeup on, comb their hair."
That's hilarious.
I probably would actually. I'm that lame. But do you have any questions, Nick?
No. I think we covered everything.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Sean, it's been absolutely a pleasure to talking with you, and I just cannot wait for next week to come around and get that book. So, and I'll probably be messaging you. Oh, this chapter. Oh, this chapter.
Absolutely, by all means. I'm very approachable. So anybody watching this, please add me on Facebook. I'm Sean Wilde on there. I have an Instagram, Sean Wilde Author. I'm TikTok, I'm New Orleans Vampire. By all means, add me. If you don't add me as a friend on Facebook, I'm probably not going to see your message on Messenger, on Instagram messaging. I will, even if we're not, following each other. But I am very approachable, so by all means, reach out. I'm being very public with stuff now, so I'm expecting it.
Go over there to everything going across the screen is how you can get a hold of him. So go over there and say, "Hey, Sean," and make sure you buy the book, of course. Make sure you jump over to Within the Quadrant and subscribe, share, and like. And until next time, be blessed. And Sean, stick around for just a minute. We'll be
Absolutely.
in the process.
All right, thank you. And thank you so much for having me, you three. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Have a great night, everyone.